All right, the recording has begun. Hi, everybody. How are you today? I'm really excited that you are all here today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us from all the various places that you are in the world. My name again is Mandy Siebel. I'm with the Office of Student Involvement, and I'm very thrilled to be with you all as we explore the topic of Mindset Matters, Embrace the Power of Yet. Lindsay Akampora, the lobby magician from the Office of Student Involvement, is also joining us in facilitating this session. And before we have the pleasure of introducing you to your speaker for this session, we just need to review a few housekeeping items with you all. So if you could move to the next slide, please, Caitlin. Perfect. Okay, so Teams has some great accessibility functions that we'd like to take a moment to highlight here. So there is live captioning, so you can find that with the More button on your Microsoft Teams navigation bar. You just select language and speech and then show live captions. You can also magnify sharing of the slides, so you navigate to the bottom left window where you see the slide decks being shared and select the plus or minus on the icons. Next slide, please, Caitlin. All right, you may have noticed that your microphone and camera are not enabled at this time. Your microphone is going to remain muted throughout the presentation to reduce background noise. However, your camera is enabled, also optional. If you want to use that, feel free, but you do not have to. Just know that it is being recorded. So if you are on camera, then you will be on the recording on camera. The chat will be available during the presentation, which you are welcome to engage with. However, we do encourage you to hold any questions till the end. I promise you we will save a few minutes for questions with Caitlin, as we're not going to necessarily be monitoring the chat for the questions throughout. So just try to hold on to those questions till the very end. We are going to be using a poll during this presentation as well. So when that happens, you're going to see it pop up pending all tech works correctly on your screen. So pay attention for that. We ask that you be kind. We are all here to learn, engage, be with the SNHU community, so please do not photograph, screenshot, or record anyone in attendance. We ask that you refrain from sharing any offensive content or using inappropriate language, and we thank you so much for your cooperation. And again, the webinar is being recorded, so there's no obligation to use the chat, your camera during this session. Next slide, please, Caitlin. Here's where we talk about you, which is very exciting. So our presenter here is Caitlin. She's the mom of 2 young boys, so she's always in the car or she's on a field or a court or somewhere sports related. She has a BA in English and Environmental Studies and a master's in education. She's currently working here at Southern Hampshire University as an academic advisor and an adjunct instructor. So some of you, she may be your advisor or instructor. You never know. She loves books. She loves the woods, photography, and pizza. Also love all of those things. She's excited to talk about how a growth mindset can help students or anyone be their best self. So, Caitlin, the floor is officially yours.
Thank you for that, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I'm
You're welcome.
Caitlin. I'm excited to be here with you all to talk about mindset. This is an important and it's an important subject and something that's really close to my heart, something that I have really taken a deep dive into over the last year or so. I don't know if anybody here has taken the IDS 104 course, but I'm currently teaching that course and it really speaks to me a lot. I think it's important to understand why we think the things that we do and how it impacts our decisions and actions and things like that. Um, so we're going to take a look at what is a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, what that means, and some examples and things like that. So let's get started. So this is just a good image that kind of showcases the differences between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. Um, a mindset is defined as a belief that our intelligence and abilities improve through effort and continuous learning. So, the growth mindset is saying we're capable of becoming something else. We learn, we grow. Whereas a fixed mindset is kind of, I am what I am, I do what I do, I think what I think. That's kind of where a fixed mindset lives. So some phrases that might be on repeat in someone who has a fixed mindset might be, I'll never be as smart as that person. I can't do it. this is too hard. I'm not good at this. I made a mistake. I give up. Whereas somebody who has embraced a growth mindset, their track might sound like everyone's talented in different ways. I'm still learning. I'll keep trying. With more practice, this will get easier. This may take time and effort. Mistakes help me learn, and I can try a different strategy. Maybe some of this is resonating with some of you and you're thinking right now, "Oh wow, I'm on this side or I'm on that side." Or sometimes we teeter back and forth between this. It's not black and white. Some things that we have had practice with, that we've had the ability to try, or maybe we're gifted in a certain area and sometimes things come naturally to us. You may have a growth mindset, whereas in some areas you may have a fixed mindset. So I would encourage you throughout this presentation to just be aware of that and start thinking about areas in which you see these different things at play. This is a book that was written by Carol Dweck. She's kind of the pioneer of the growth mindset. This is a great book if you're a reader. I totally recommend this book if you have time and the capacity. If you don't, or if you like to listen things, you prefer the audio, there's also a great podcast episode that's on Google Talks where you can get the gist of the main concepts in this book. This book speaks to the idea that our words are important. The things that we're telling ourselves are important, and they play a key role in our actions and the things that we will do. And it may not be as obvious as you think. This book speaks about the importance of using of limiting the words, limiting words. Sorry, so like smart, stupid, can't, never, things like that. And I know smart. Is typically we would associate that with a positive, being a positive word. But the word smart is tough here because it's still a limiting word. If you tell your child that, oh, you did a great job on that, you're so smart, that child thinks, oh, okay, I'm smart, so that's why I'm good at this thing. And then if they don't do well at something the next time, they might think, oh, well, I guess that means I'm not smart. Whereas if your child does well at something that they've worked hard on, instead of saying you're so smart, you could say, wow, you worked really hard on that. Things like that encourage that behavior rather than just an inherent thing that's true about that child or anybody, an adult as included. This book just includes a lot of data that really speaks to this and says that students, no matter their age, do better with a growth mindset. This is definitely true, and it's something that's really important. And if you can kind of figure this out early on in your college education, you'll be so much better off moving forward. I thought it was really interesting. They're doing a study in a high school in Chicago where they're giving students a grade of not yet. So students who might fail an assignment, instead of getting an F and just told to move on, they're given the grade of not yet with the intent of them being able to resubmit the assignment and improve on it. I think that's so important, especially for any age. This, like I said, I'm teaching this IDS 104 course, and I've had students come to me early on and say, oh, this isn't making sense, or I'm sorry, I don't know how to post this, or and you're learning all these different things at the same time. So I think we need to give ourselves some grace here and the opportunity to resubmit something, no matter if it's for credit or not. That's knowing that we're not going to be perfect at everything the first time is really important here. And I love giving the grade of not yet. You're almost there, you're on the right track. Here's what you can do to get there. We're not there yet. I think that the word is very powerful, and we're going to see a little bit more. So while we're talking about that, I want you to take a second. If you have something to write with, this is a good time to take it out. If you're feeling brave, you can put it in the chat. I want you to think of a time right now in your life where you're telling yourself, I can't, or I'm not. And that could be anything. It could be, I can't finish this course. I can't get that job. I can't write this book. I can't blank, or I'm just not good at blank. So take a second and write it down. You don't have to share it if you don't want to, but if you're, like I said, if you're feeling brave, do it, and we'll support you through it. Something that I'll share here, a couple of years ago, actually probably about 5 years ago now, I made the decision to turn my passion for photography into a business. And it was really hard, and I was unsure. My friends and family whose photos I had done for a while, they were like telling me, you should try to turn this into a business. So I said, okay. And I did all the research I could do. I watched all the YouTube tutorials. I played around with the camera. I spent so many hours photographing food and photographing my kids and anybody who would let me, I would take their picture. And I thought I was getting pretty good. I learned how to use all the tools that are necessary. I learned how to use Photoshop to an extent, Lightroom to an extent, all these different things that I had to kind of figure out along the way. And then I got my first paid photo shoot, and it was a family session that was a friend of a friend, and they hired me to do this photo session. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I did it, and I thought it went really well. I connected with the family and the kids, had a great experience, and then went home, edited the photos in a way that I thought looked nice, sent the album, was so excited. And then I heard back from the mom and the family a couple days later, and she was said, we don't like the photos. We think they're too bright. They're kind of washed out. It's not our style. And I was so disappointed at the time and just thought, oh my goodness, I put so much effort and so much heart into this. And this was my style. I thought they were going to love it. And they didn't. And then I said, okay, this was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. And I kind of just put my camera down for a couple months. And I said, you know what? I thought I could do this, but I can't. And then at the time, I had a close friend who has done photography for years and years, and she's very good. And she was my inspiration for becoming a photographer. And she said, I have to shoot a wedding in a couple weeks. Can you be the second photographer for this wedding? And I said, oh my gosh, you're crazy. There's no way I can do that. I'm not good enough. I just got this feedback, and she didn't like my photos, and a wedding is such a big deal. I don't think I can do it. We went back and forth for a while, and eventually she was like, you're just a second shooter. It's low pressure. Just join me. So I said, fine, okay. We went. It was a great experience. Everyone had a blast. We took lots of photos. And then when we were editing them later, I got to learn from her, and I got to see how she was editing the photos. And I remember her saying to me, you have a great eye. It just takes time to get the editing part down. And it takes practice, and it takes getting feedback, and it takes learning from your mistakes and trying again. And then she showed me some of her early photography that was from years ago, and I could see the progress that she's made and see the difference in the pictures. And at that point I was like, oh, you know what? You're right. Like I can do this. I can practice, I can get better, I can try out different forms of editing, and if it doesn't work for everybody, that's okay. And then that was kind of the shift for me where I was like, okay, I'm just not good enough yet. I picked the camera back up, and since then I've had so many more sessions, and so many of them have been excellent. And I have customers and clients that come back year after year, and it's been a great experience. So I think that shift really, really changed things for me. And I think it can change for everybody. And so I would encourage you now, hopefully you've had a chance while I was ranting there to kind of write down your something that is sitting for you that you're telling yourself you're not good enough yet. And then take that phrase that you just wrote down and add the word yet to it. So whatever it was, I'm not where I want to be with this thing yet. I'm not good at this thing yet. All of the things that we want to learn, these things that we're trying so hard to do, they take time, they take effort. And I don't know if anybody here has ever heard the 10,000 hour rule. This was a book back in 2008. This was a very popular thing that went around that said you could master anything that you dedicated 10,000 hours of intentional practice at. And I think that's true. I do. I think not everything takes 10,000 hours, but some things, sure. And I think if you spend the time and you do the work at something, if it's really important to you, you can do it. Think about the amount of information that exists on the internet for free today. If you want to learn something, you can. You have resources available to you. It's just a matter of doing it. And this is a phrase that I have a friend that says this phrase all the time, and it's effort or it's excuses. And that's kind of harsh. I think it can be a little harsh, but also true. You'll make the effort or you'll make an excuse. And if you're making excuses, maybe it's not the right time, or maybe this thing isn't as important to you as you're saying it is, right? So think about this. Think about how adding the phrase yet can shift your mind. shift that, what you're saying to yourself in your mind, because what we're saying to ourselves, it's important. And we're going to come back to that in a few minutes, but let's take a second and just think about this in really simple terms, right? When we're born, we're little, we learn all these things. We're learning constantly as a baby, as a toddler, as a child. You're learning every second of the day, every minute of the day. And you think about this, what if we didn't have that? We would never learn how to do the things that we're all currently doing. We wouldn't learn to walk or read or talk or play soccer or drive a car. There's all these examples that we can draw from that we have learned here over the course of our life up until this point. And every person here has many examples of those things. And this is just to simplify it, right? And somewhere along the way, when we're going through our life, we learn these limiting beliefs, whether that's, okay, I failed my spelling test in first grade and then I never took another spelling test, so I'm bad at spelling. Or I made dinner when I was 16 for my boyfriend and he told me it was terrible and then I never cooked again, so I must be bad at cooking. So all these things along the way, they add up and they shape and influence our mindset and how we look at things. The good news is that it doesn't have to stay that way. So even if during this presentation up until this point you're thinking, wow, I really think I lean towards the fixed mindset, that's okay. You can change it. That's the beautiful thing about this, is there's room to change. And so while I was putting this together, I can tell you all these things, and there's so many people out there that will speak on this, and really it is finding the right voice and the right reasons and who speaks to you the most. To me, I'm going to take a minute here and bear with me because technology is not my best thing. I'm working on it. I'm not there yet, but I'll get there. I'm going to play a video from Tom Brady. I don't know if anybody watches football here, or if you're a Patriots fan. I know we just had a tough Super Bowl loss. The easiest way to do this, we decided, was to pause this and share it a different way. So hopefully you can just give me a thumbs up or a heart if you can hear this once I share it. That would be awesome. Let's see. Bear with me while I get back to our presentation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I do. I think it really speaks to I think professional athletes in general, it's a great example of working hard for something and putting in the effort. Like Tom Brady said in that video, the majority of people that we see be successful, whether it's with athletics or whether it's with music or art or whatever the thing is, most of the time, it's because they worked really hard to get there. There are not a lot of prodigies that are born that just have this gift. And I think it's really easy, especially with being bombarded with social media and everything like that, of all these examples of people who are doing this thing, and it's really easy in your brain to say, oh, well, they're good at this because blank, or well, they have different circumstances, or it's easy for them because blank. But that's not always the case. It's not always just easier for them. Sometimes most of the time it's because they worked really, really hard to get there. And you're not seeing what's going on behind closed doors. You're not seeing all the effort that's being put in, and the time and sacrifice and all of those things. Maybe you're just seeing the end result. And sometimes we need a reminder of that. Which brings me into our next slide here, which is a scenario. I want you to take a second and think about this specific scenario. Your friend just started a completely new career. It's his first day working in IT. And he calls you on the way home, and it's his first shift, and he says to you, oh my goodness, I don't know why I thought I could do this job. I had no idea what I was doing today. I felt completely overwhelmed. I never should have accepted this position. Amanda, if you can pull the poll now just to see what everybody thinks about this. What kind of advice are we giving our friend? Are we choosing A, wow, that sounds really overwhelming. Maybe you should quit. Or are we choosing B, that's a lot, but it was your first day. Give yourself some grace. You're still learning and it'll take time. What are we thinking here? If you could just put it in, and then we'll kind of see. Okay, so the responses are coming in, and overwhelmingly everyone is choosing B. right? 100% so far. Everyone who's done the poll, everyone is saying B. This seems obvious, and I agree. And I've taken it for face value. Of course, we're not going to tell our friend when they call in this time of, they're needing support, they're needing comfort, they're needing some reassurance. And we know our friend is talented. We know they can handle it. We know they'll be great at it, right? So it's our natural instinct to say B. So why is it that when this is our own self and we're telling ourselves this, maybe we don't give ourselves that same grace? Maybe we're too hard on ourselves. So often I talk with students who will say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got this grade, or this happened. I can't believe I let this ball dropped. And then but they've also told me all these other things that are going on in their life, or it's their first term, or it's just a really challenging course, all of these things. And it's like, how much grace are you giving yourself in the area that maybe you're not doing the best in right now? Or maybe you're still growing in a specific area and you're constantly beating yourself up in your own brain about how you could be doing better or you should be further along. That's another one I hear a lot from students is, oh, I'm this age and I should be further along at this age, or I'm not going to be where I want to be. And I'll tell you what, the time is going to pass anyway. Whether you're working towards a bigger goal or you're not, the time is going to pass anyway. So be happy with where you're at and put in the effort. That's all anybody can do. Speaking specifically to students, what does it look like? Okay, so here I am telling you, embrace a growth mindset, do all these things. What does that look like in terms of being a student? First thing is feedback. You're getting feedback on assignments from instructors. You're getting feedback in discussion boards. You're getting feedback. I know it can feel a little bit harder sometimes when we're just in a virtual world. Embrace the feedback, whether it's great feedback or it's feedback that says you need to work on these things. Embrace it. Know that the feedback is there to support your learning. So if you can separate the emotion from the feedback and take it for what it is and notice where it's coming from and what the end goal is if the feedback is from your instructor saying, you lost 10 points on APA format, here's a resource. Okay, that's perfect. I know where I need to work. I can go to the resource. I can improve on this skill, and then next time I'll do better. If the feedback is coming from a peer in a discussion board and it's just tearing you down, maybe you leave that feedback there. That's not something you need. If it's not productive or it's not getting you to a better place and it's not from someone who's doing the thing that you want to be good at, then you just leave it there. You don't need to take it. Not all feedback is something that needs to be implemented, right? Some feedback is. It's just important to note these kind of factors in it. Intentional practice. That's how we get better at anything we want to do. If you're a new student, it's going to take practice to get used to Brightspace. It's going to take practice to get used to reading everything online, discussion boards, the logistics, the content, all of these things. Practice, practice, practice. And with that comes trying again. You always have the opportunity to try again, even if it's not for credit. If you're in a class and your instructor says, no, I won't accept it for credit, it's worth it to redo it if you can. It's worth it because you'll take that learning experience and it might help you the next time that you're doing it. Obviously, if you can get credit, that's great. If not, it's still worth doing it. Anything that you want to be better at, you have to practice. That's just how it is. And the last thing is ask for help. Nobody expects you to know everything. You're in school, you're learning. That's the whole point of being here. We're all here to help. Ask your advisor, ask your instructor, ask a peer, ask someone you know in your personal life, ask anybody that you have available to you as a resource for help. Not even just in school, but in anywhere that you want to grow, ask somebody who can provide you with the answers or advice or anything like that. We all are learning and it's worth it to ask for help. So these are just some simple ways that you can embrace a growth mindset in terms of being a student, which I think is really great. And that's why we're all here, right? Also, coming along with this is, oh, sorry, I skipped a slide, I think. Whoop. Okay. And part of being a student is going to be that they're going to be challenges, right? And that comes along with it. So part of embracing this growth mindset is that you can recover from setbacks really quickly. So just because you get a bad grade on one assignment doesn't mean that you're going to do badly in that course. Don't give up just because you've done poorly on one assignment. Don't throw in the towel. Know that it's temporary. Know that there's room for improvement. And if you can embrace that mindset, it will help you immensely in every aspect of your life, not just school, but everywhere. If you can know that everything is temporary, things can get better, you can grow. It will, nothing can stand in your way. Going along with that, another important part of embracing a growth mindset is celebrating the small wins. This is something that I personally have taken on as a goal this year. I think in our world, it's very easy to be bogged down with negative things, whether that's things that you're reading or things we're consuming, things that we're hearing, all these things. And we're our own toughest critics sometimes. So I think celebrating our small wins is a really great way to keep that momentum going and encourage a growth mindset. Because if you're doing all these things, but you just keep going to the next thing, your brain doesn't know when to stop. It doesn't know what's good. It doesn't know what's bad. But if you take the time to celebrate when you're doing something that you've set for a goal or something that is a positive, you're getting positive traction on something that you're working towards, do it, because this triggers to your brain, oh, that's something good. We're doing something good. Let's keep doing more of that thing. And this can be something, it can be the most simple of things. I have a girlfriend who loves this like simple boxes of mixed chocolate. They're like the Wegmans mixed chocolate. I don't know. Anyway, she keeps them in her pantry, and on them is a post-it note with the goal that she wants to achieve. So and it can be something so silly, even if it's just like, I drank 32 ounces of water every day. Boom. If she does it for a week, she gets the chocolate. This is like, and there are bigger ones on there. That was a silly example. But if you have some sort of reward for yourself, even if it's something small, it's motivating when you get it. For me, I love to take a walk with my dog. So in the morning when I start work, I will, again, this is something, I don't know if anybody is familiar with the term eat the frog, but I will do whatever the hardest task is of that day, whether it's a phone call, conversation I don't want to have, if it's an email I don't want to send, if it's something that needs to be done for work, something, I will do the hardest task of that day first. And when I do it, I'll reward myself with a 15-minute walk with my dog outside. It's easy. It doesn't cost any money. It makes me happy, makes me feel good. And these are things that are really easy to implement along the way. So, whatever your version of this is, do it. Going along with the celebrating small wins and whoop, my next slide here. I don't know if you can see it. Whoop, a little slow here. I apologize if that wasn't up the whole time and I'm just talking. Another thing to embrace while you're working on the small wins are the words that you're saying to yourself. So it's again, this goes back to the conversation with a friend, right? We need to give ourselves the same grace and respect that we would give our best friends, that we would tell our best friends. The things that we're replaying all day, they really do matter a lot. This is self-reflection. It's the positive self-talk. It's all of these things. Maybe you've heard it before. Maybe it sounds silly. I promise you, if you practice this, it gets easier and it truly does work. It's the switch between, oh my goodness, I'm so bad at this, to, okay, nope. I've said that. That was my first instinct. Let me stop. Let me rephrase it. And I can say, no, I'm human and I'm doing the best I can. Just making that simple switch in your brain it will make a world of difference. Or just saying, I'm not good at this. Okay, no, I'm not good at this yet, but if it's important to me, I can get better at it, and I will. Right? So it's just that inner dialogue that we're having with ourselves, because at the end of the day, we're talking to ourselves more than anybody else. We're telling ourselves these things all day every day. So we might as well be telling ourselves the good things along with the bad things, right? Because the negative things tend to come fast and easy for most people, and this part takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more work, but I promise you it's 100% worth doing. Another thing that's worth doing speaking in similar terms here, are setting goals. So part of this, having a growth mindset and embracing a growth mindset, part of that is setting realistic and achievable goals that we can do, right? So same thing with the celebrating small wins. We're setting goals. The goals promote this growth. They encourage us to get better. From a student perspective, the goal might be, okay, this term I'm going to make sure all my assignments are in on time. Or this term, if I fall behind, I'm going to communicate with my instructor that I need extra help. It doesn't need to be, I'm going to get all A's, right? And in fact, it's better to have goals that are habits versus just this kind of end goal, because we all know that there can be a course that you can get an A in relatively easy, and then there can be a course that you're going to get a really hard earned C or D, right? That happens. That's just part of life. So having the goal be something that's a habit is not only going to set you up for success in future courses, but this can also set you up for success in other areas of life. These habits, it's all about creating sustainable habits that can help promote that growth mindset. And if this is something that you are vibing with, you're enjoying this, you want to work on being the best version of yourself, you're like, yes, I'm here for this. There's so many resources that are out there on this. I played Tom Brady, and I like to think Tom Brady said that, it's like preparing for Super Bowl. Graduation is the Super Bowl, right? For students, that's the Super Bowl. Maybe the class that you're in, or even just the assignment, that's showing up for game day, right? So you've got to show up, put your game face on, do your best, the best that you can do for each assignment and each game, and then you get to the Super Bowl, you get to graduation. That's kind of the end goal. But all of those, every assignment along the way, every course along the way, all of these things matter just as much. So all of these things, take it for what you will. There's so many resources, and I'll share a few here with you in terms of books and podcasts and ways that you can, continue learning about this. And I think you should. And I hope that all of you take what I've said tonight, and you apply it, and you try to add that word yet to those limiting beliefs that are on replay, and try rephrasing the things that you're saying to yourself in your brain so that you can make that shift from a fixed to a growth mindset. This is one phrase that has always stuck with me, is where your mind goes, energy flows, right? So we're thinking all the time anyway. We can't stop it. At no point can you be thinking nothing. So if we're going to spend all of this time and effort with ourselves and telling ourselves these things and putting energy to these things, we might as well make it a positive. And we might as well set big goals, set small goals, achieve them, and do the best you can. And these are the resources. I personally love Mel Robbins. I also loved the Lewis Howes book. There's so many out there. So find what works for you. Listen, and yeah, I hope that you all enjoyed this, and I'm excited to see what everybody thinks.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much. All right, everyone. We have about a few minutes for questions. So if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. What a great talk, Caitlin. That was amazing. I also teach IDS 104. For those of you who haven't taken it yet, it's great. It talks a lot about the growth and fixed mindset, and it's a new design of that SNHU 107 course. So amazing. I've really enjoyed teaching that. So again, if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. We'll ask as many as we can to Caitlin. And again, we're going to do our best to answer as many questions as we possibly can, but we are recording this. So if you do have to leave, or we didn't get to your question, we're going to do the best that we can in the next few minutes, but put them in the chat. Let us know. We got a lot of thank yous for you, Caitlin. We got a lot of thank yous, a lot of appreciation for your talk here. And someone suggested another good book is The Mountain Is You. I have not heard of that one yet. All right, we've got our first question, Caitlin. What would you recommend on time management for those who have very busy schedules, which I feel like is a lot of us in this webinar?
Absolutely, absolutely. Everybody's got so many things on. I'm the queen of multitasking as much as we can do that, and I get it. It's hard for me, and for what I recommend to my students as far as time management goes. The more you can plan, the better, and the more you can kind of automate the things that don't need you, the better. So I think the basics, right, of like getting up and going to bed and getting up at the same time is really important if you can swing it. Having those predictable bedtimes really does help, even if it sounds silly. Scheduling time for everything that you can schedule time for. If you've got a family, I know it's tough with kids sometimes, but if you can, and knowing when you work the best too. For me, I'm useless after 8 o'clock, so this is about it. And in the morning, I am much more on and much more productive. So if I know I need to spend time working on something, I will get up earlier to work on it then. So I think that's helpful, just knowing when you're at your best, when you're at your prime, and then scheduling those chunks of time and holding yourself to it. Sometimes with school or with things that aren't a hard deadline or nobody else is requiring us to be there, it can be hard. But yeah, I think making that commitment to yourself and then honoring it is really important for time management.
Perfect. That's so true. I am not a morning person, friends. I am a night owl. So I'm cool. I'm ready to go. But mornings, I'm not at my best self. And I know that about myself. We have another question here that says, how do you get to the podcast that you shared?
Okay, so you can get to that podcast through YouTube. If you have an Apple phone, you can get to these podcasts through the podcast app on there, and also online. But yes, that one specifically is available on YouTube.
Perfect. Any other questions? Still a lot of thank yous. A lot of thank yous in this chat. They're very appreciative. Do we have any other questions? Oh, they asked if we will send the list of recommended books. This is going to be recorded. So when you will get the recording, so you'll have it, and then you can go back and look at it as well. So we don't have everyone's email to send it in like a follow-up email, but this will be in the recording. We're going to share the link to where this will be housed. You can go back at any time. Great question. We've got some other night owls with me as well, which is great. Someone says, you made me open my mind to looking at myself in other ways. So just a reflection there. Any other questions for Caitlin? Or thoughts? Anything anyone would like to share? Some of us who aren't night owls are probably like, I'm getting ready for bed. All right. Caitlin, any final thoughts while we see if any other questions come in?
Oh, I was just looking up because I wasn't able to keep up with the chat, so I was just trying to catch up, and I see one thing that I think is really cool is that it's obvious that this is a shared experience, which is neat. You're not alone in the self-talk and in the trying to be intentional, and everybody kind of has some similar struggles in one way or another, and I think we just need to have a sense of community around this.
Awesome. And you know what? While you were talking, 3 other questions came in. All of them came in at the same time. So one, Violet asks, are there any recommended action steps to take to change mindsets?
Honestly, it's just that shift in the moment. And it feels hard, it feels awkward when you're doing it at first, but it is just that, like, if you get really frustrated with something and you're like, "Oh, I'm just so bad at this." And instead of just letting the thought end there, notice, "Oh, okay, I just said this. How can I rephrase that to let my mind know that no, that's not true. We're not bad at this. We just don't have enough practice." And we'll get better at it. We're just not there yet. It really is just taking that time to pause, notice, reflect, and then rephrase. And it just takes repetition. I promise you, it sounds silly, but the more you do it, the negative talk will stop being the first thing you think of.
And that did come up in the chat. They loved the yet strategy. It really made them shift their personal view of themselves, which was great. Let me see. Let me go back, make sure I'm not missing any. Is there a mantra or something that you repeat when you feel negative thoughts trying to overtake your mind or your goal or anything that's happening during the day?
I do. And honestly, my mantra is really just that what I said of where your focus goes, energy flows. And so that is mine that I will say. So if I notice that I'm spiraling or if I'm in a loop of negative thoughts, I will pause and say, "Okay, this is where we're putting our energy. Is this in alignment with where we want to go?" And if it's not, then you have to do the reshifting of thoughts there.
Perfect. And we might have a lot of perfectionists in the room. Do you have any advice for being a perfectionist?
Ugh, relatable. The I mean, the thing is you're not going to be perfect at everything. That's like the harsh reality of life, is you're not going to be good at everything that you do the first time, and that's okay. That is expected. And some things, like I said, some things come naturally and easily to some people and they don't for others. I recently went skiing this winter for the first time in many years, and I thought it would be like riding a bike and I'd be able to do it. It was not. I was terrible. And I will tell you that you have to, for me, I went down a couple times. I was like, that's it. I'm not doing this. I'm bad at this. But then I was like, okay, no, we're not bad at this. We just haven't done this in 10 years and it's hard. So I think for a perfectionist, it's just more of that. It's more of that talk, and it's more of accepting that failure is inevitable. And if you're failing at something, it means you're trying something new and you're making forward momentum, and that's all we can do.
Exactly. I am not a skier, Caitlin. I give you major props. Living in New Hampshire, you think
Me
I would
either.
be. I will tell you, I was the kid who stayed back when the school went to go skiing on skiing trips. Not my favorite. I know I'm going to fail at that. Okay, we've got about, I think, a couple more questions here, maybe two. Let's see. How do you prioritize time for yourself, especially for someone who spends a lot of their time with others without feeling guilty, or for others without feeling guilty? So, how do you prioritize time for yourself when you're doing a lot for others?
That's a really good question. And I don't know that I'm the expert on this, to be honest with you.
Totally.
As
Yeah.
a mom of two young children, I am spread thin also. And I hear you. It's hard to find that time for yourself. It is. And I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but sometimes when we do take it, we can feel guilty. And that's not a healthy thing because you definitely need time for yourself. So I think it's like anything. We know these things, right? You don't need somebody to tell you that time for yourself is important. You know that, and it is, and it's one of those things that, it's as cliche as it sounds, you can't fill someone else's cup until yours is filled. It's like the put the mask on someone else in the airplane, right? You can't put theirs on until you put yours on. So you have to make sure, I think I messed that up. You can't pour from an empty cup. There we go. Yeah, so take the time. You just need it and put it on your calendar. Schedule fun. That is important.
I love that. I love to schedule fun. I'm down for that. Okay, I promise we've only got two more, and then we're going to close out. I know some people are saying it's their bedtime. Someone had shared they started journaling. What do we think of that? And are there any journal prompts that you would recommend if you journal at all?
I love journaling. I am a journaling nerd. I have a journal by my bed. I have several journals by my bed. I think it's great if you can get into a routine of journaling. It's super cathartic. It's great. It's a great practice. As far as prompts or things like that, for me, so this also is going to sound cheesy, but I will try to find at least three things every day that I'm grateful for. So, and it can't be big things. So you can't be like, I'm grateful for my family. We know it has to be something small. So it has to be something that happened specifically that day, which this prompt has been great for me because if you're going throughout the day looking for things to be grateful for, you're just a happier person. You're looking for things to be thankful for. And yeah, that's worked out really well for me. But I think as long as you're journaling, anything that you're taking the time to reflect on and put down on paper, that's just it's a great thing for everybody to do.
Perfect. And we're going to close on this last question, and then we'll go into our final bits here. Do you have any final and closing advice for those who maybe are doing a whole 360 in their life as far as breaking old routines and habits and becoming a new version of themselves?
I love this question so much. Okay, well, it's hard to do all the things at once. I'll say that. Um, it's it's nearly impossible to revamp everything. And so my advice would be to focus on one thing or two things at a time. Don't try to change everything at once because then you might get burnout and you might feel frustrated and that might set you back. So take it in parts. I would make a list of where you want to go and see, what steps will get you there. Whether they're big steps and small steps, break it down into chunks and make an action plan, things like that. But I would try not to say, okay, I'm going to change everything about my life at once because that's overwhelming. So break it down as much as you can into parts and get support. Tell people that you're doing it so they'll hold you accountable and they'll help you.
Love that. What a great question and a great note to end on. So, with that, we are officially going to close out this leadership skill building webinar. Thank you so much, Lindsay, who's been in the chat and amazing, our wonderful presenter, Caitlin Velasquez. And thank you to all of you for attending, participating, spending part of your evening with us. We will be posting a flash giveaway on the screen you'll see here in SNHU Connect in our events page, so our SNHU events page. And so if you go in, share a little bit about what you learned tonight in that page, you could be entered to win some SNHU swag. which, come on, everybody wants SNHU swag. So take a peek, go on SNHU Connect, go to that SNU events page and enter to win the swag. We are going to also, Lindsay's going to post some help, she already did because she's amazing, some helpful reminders and links in the chat, but we appreciate you all so much for coming. Thank you again, Caitlin, for a wonderful webinar, and we hope you join another webinar very soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.